hopeless place that we're in, but I'm your liability. I know you are my liability. Yeah, I know you are my liability. Oh, what a hopeless case we could be. Yeah. Oh, what a hopeless place that we're in, but I'm your liability.
Welcome to Spiritual Direction Soul Care Sunday Live, every Sunday at 2 p.m. I'm really glad that you're with us for session 3 of our current journey, Gifts of Imperfection. This is our last session for this journey before we take a break and then start in to the Advent season again. So I'm really excited about this last session. We're going to try to really dig in on some stuff and kind of make it count. It's a mega session on content, so get ready. I cannot wait to get into this with you guys. As always, I'm so glad if you are joining us. Invite your friends to come join our growing community on Facebook. Over there, you'll get some more content as well as ways to connect personally with different members of Spiritual Direction and Soul Care. We're going to kind of be amping that up in the Advent season as we head toward Christmas. I cannot wait to talk about that a little bit more. But first, just wanted to gently remind you that there is no Sunday Live next Sunday, November 28th. No Sunday Live next Sunday, November 28th. Enjoy the holiday weekend. I hope if you observe Thanksgiving that you have a great time eating good food and resting, maybe watching football. I like to watch the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade with my kids, and then the big dog show that they always show after that. That's kind of like one of my things. I would love to hear from you. Like, what are your Thanksgiving or holiday traditions during this time of year? Maybe throw them in the chat and let us know, even if you're watching on the replay. Would love to hear from you. Also, wanted to tell you that our next midweek meditation will be December 1st, 7 p.m. If you go to the Facebook page, you can find the links and the event information for that. Even though we do not have Sunday Live next week, December 1st, midweek meditation will kick off. Really, it's kind of like the pre-kickoff for our Advent journey that we're going to be doing, which I'll be telling you about in a little bit. I'm really excited about it. We'll be moving into weekly sessions of midweek meditation. So every Wednesday at 7 p.m. during Lent, it's going to be a lot of fun. So even though technically Lent starts next Sunday, we will not have Sunday Live, but we will start with the midweek meditation, and then we will kick off our Advent series. It's called Still Waiting. Still Waiting starts Sunday, December 5th. It's going to be a ton of fun. I'm really excited to getting back into Advent as we look at Still Waiting. Last year, we kicked off spiritual direction and soul care with an Advent series called Hush the Noise. That was the launch of everything we've been doing for this last year. In reality, this Sunday is actually the 1 year anniversary of the creation of spiritual direction and soul care. And I'm so glad that you're part of it. Go out, invite friends to come join us. We want to keep growing in this next year. And we will be coming back to the themes of Advent again. But we're going to be looking at it through the filter of how we're still waiting, that thing in us. What do we do when pandemic's not over yet, even though we want it to be? What do we do when we're still longing for that hope for outcome or that new reality? I'm going to be so excited about us getting into this. We'll be going back into kind of the traditional scriptures that are assigned for each week, looking at different themes in the Bible around the waiting of Advent, the transformation that can come as we wait. Maybe you are the kind of person who has just felt like everything has fallen apart, everything that you were hoping for that was just within your grasp or just coming in to being somehow got stripped away or you lost it. This would be a really good journey for us to like dig into the ancient scriptures, seek wisdom, connect always with the Spirit and with others as we learn the spiritual lessons of patience, of waiting, of mourning, of lament. There's beautiful things to be found here, even in the waiting. And we can be curious about ourselves and go, well, why is it so annoying to me that I'm still waiting? What is that, right? What are those things in us that do that? We're going to explore so much and get a vision for what love and faith and hope can be for us as we wrap out another year. Want to end the year with hope and healing, have a hopeful and healing end to this year, just like last year, but around some different themes. So I cannot wait to discover what's there in the Bible and in scripture and in reflection as we think about these themes during Advent. So that's called Still Waiting. We'll kick off, like I said, with a midweek meditation that will be focused around these themes and that will be weekly all through Advent. And then the next Sunday Live will start December 5th, Still Waiting. And as always, you can always go to spiritualdirectionandsoulcare.com and check out our soul care program. You can donate to the work. We're going to be giving some of those part of those donations away to people in need this season. So please feel free to donate there as well. It'll be a great way for us to support those who may be waiting for other things and waiting for stuff that we might not ever have to worry about. We're going to find out a way to come together as a community and really impact some people with your giving. So check it out at spiritualdirectionandsoulcare.com. All right. Well, let's begin as always with our most basic spiritual practices as we breathe and give ourselves the gift of stillness, as we rest, as we give ourselves a moment of peace together as we breathe. So I invite you to, wherever you are, to make sure you're comfortable. If you're sitting, make sure your spine is tall and straight. And I invite you to just simply take in breath as we breathe and out. And once again, in for 2 seconds. 1, 2, and out for 3. If it helps to close your eyes, I invite you to do that. Or to maybe gently direct your gaze downward to a place in front of you, someplace neutral, as we continue to breathe. I invite you to bring kind awareness to your body, As you breathe, what are you feeling in your gut, your chest, your head, maybe your shoulders or feet? Just focus there. I invite you to bring kind awareness to what emotions do you identify with the sensations in your body. And as you name those emotions, resist any need to assess or analyze. Just let them be what they are. Feel them. There's no need to resist them, good or bad. There's no need to even evaluate them or determine if how you feel is good or bad. There just is where you are in this moment as you breathe. Maybe you watched the midweek meditation video that was posted on the Facebook page this week. We gave some really good tools that help you energize yourself, get back in touch with yourself. Simple, practical, physical tools that you use with your hands, positions that you hold with your hands. Continue to breathe. Let your feelings flow, let your thoughts flow. Imagine they're like a river. Don't get caught up with them. Just let them flow through you and out of you with each breath. The past week is over. This coming week is not here yet. You are here. You are. You're present. Imagine all that you are thinking and feeling flowing out of you on this next breath. Imagine the river of your experience and feelings flowing out of you in a way, a beautiful rolling stream surrounded by beauty and life. And that river flows over a beautiful cascade, away and down. And as it flows, you imagine yourself grounding in stillness, flowing away and down, light breaking over you. You're free and at peace. Amen. Amen. How do you feel? How do you feel? Have you given yourself a gift today? The gift of stillness, the gift of life, the coming down, the centering down, as the Quakers call it, the getting down to the root, the core of self, that place where there is that of God within each one of us. What the Quakers called the inner light. Yes, the spirit, the seed from which life flows. This place that we open ourselves to the truest one and to our truest selves. How do you feel? Friar Nicholas says, I am here now. I am here now. Yes, we are present. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. All right. Well, today, session 3 of Gifts of Imperfection. It's our third and final session of this journey. It's been a 3-week journey. And I'm really excited about us getting into this good work. As many of you know, I really got inspired a few weeks ago, being in a workshop and a training with someone that kind of got these ideas and concepts and themes going. And I knew I really needed to pass it along to the spiritual direction and soul care community. So I hope that this has been a rich and learning process for you. And as we've kind of discovered more and more about what kind of gifts can be found in compassion and courage, and even in shame. These gifts of imperfection that we've been talking about are rooted in ideas from the book with the same title by Brene Brown. And really, in reality, what we've been doing is exploring over these last 3 weeks what it means to live open hearted, what it means to live wholeheartedly, how we can live fully, how we can live openly, even in the challenges of life, even in the challenges that we may create for ourselves. Or the challenges that others have brought to us. And like I say each week, these gifts of imperfection, this is more than just finding silver linings in the midst of hard stuff. I really believe that each one of us, that you and I, can use the energy of our hurt and our loss and our pain to find real meaning, to find real purpose, to even find deeper connections to the ones you love, even the ones you've lost. And that kind of tender work is wholehearted living. It's a humble, understated work, right? Like, I don't want it to be like everything's great and live your best life now. I'm not trying to do that, right? I'm saying that it's about this much deeper, steadier work where we can even use our failings and shortcomings and pain to find real life. And that's what wholehearted living is, right? It means being able to notice and identify what's really happening within yourself and for yourself. And it really means too that when we do this, this is kind of like living in the space of a kind of deep inner stillness that accepts what we are and how we are, wherever we are, right? And when we do this, then that helps us really understand not only what's happening within ourselves, but it really helps each one of us see other people too for who they are. Each week I've shared this quote. Brene Brown says, if we want to live in love with our whole hearts, and if we want to engage with the world from a place of worthiness, we have to talk about the things that get in the way, especially things like shame or fear, our resistance to our vulnerability, right? And especially if you're watching today, on the broadcast or the replay, if you've experienced devastating loss, you are feeling pretty vulnerable right now. And there's a part of us that we don't like feeling vulnerable, even if there hasn't been loss. We just don't like to admit that life is a risk and love is a risk. And We're a lot more vulnerable than we'd like to admit, but it's only when we get into that and find the gifts there is where we can really live authentically and fully as we are and be there and be fully for others as well, right? So we've talked about things like compassion and courage. We've talked about shame. That was a big one last week. We had a great conversation in the chat on the Facebook page about that. So like, get ready today. I'm counting on you guys to share your wisdom and let's get into this. Today, we're going to be looking at worth and belonging. And ultimately, we're going to have to talk a little bit about authenticity and vulnerability as well. So for our last session, again, I'd really encourage you to get out a pen, a journal, or maybe open up a note or document on your device, whatever works best for you to help you jot down ideas or questions or concepts that stick out to you. Okay. And we're going to dive into the material and we're going to share our thoughts. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from you and the wisdom that fills our community. Okay. So let's get started. As we talk about worth and belonging and authenticity. And we'll talk about self-compassion and worth and belonging. Okay. So what is worth and belonging? What is worth and belonging in your mind? Maybe throw it in the chat as I'm talking about this. What is worth and belonging? So this is really key, because to tell your story, to live your story, to be yourself, to share your full self with your whole heart, right? To live with the courage to be imperfect, to have compassion for yourself and then for others, right? And to be connected deeply as a result of that authenticity, right? That's what worth and belonging really is. And that's what self-compassion really is, right? Being willing to let go of who you think you need to be and who you think you are, right? Diane says worth is something or someone that has value, right? And how often do we think that somehow we don't have value, right? Somehow we think that we have to add on stuff or do stuff to be of value, to be worthy, and thus to belong, right? Friar Nicholas says worth is attitudinal. It's an outlook for some of us. Yes. Yeah, that's really good. I mean, Brene Brown says that it's hard to practice compassion for ourselves when we're struggling with our value, right? When we're struggling with being authentic and open, when our sense of worthiness is off balance, or, being derived from sources that are unreliable or unsustainable, right? Like, you can't derive your worth from what other people think or how much money you have, right? Or what you do. Right? These things can help us get a picture or a sense of our worth, right? Or the way that we contribute. But there has to be this cultivation of a deep understanding that each one of us is worth so much, that we're of infinite value, infinitely precious, just by virtue of our being here and breathing. Do you believe that about yourself? One wise teacher said that to be human is to accept ourselves just as we are, with our own history, and to accept others as they are. So this thinker is basically saying that to truly matter, to truly be the full human that you need to be and that you're meant to be, means accepting ourselves as we are, good and bad, pleasant, unpleasant, all of it, to really know ourselves as we are and to not put a sense of evaluation or judgment on ourselves, right? Because if we want to fully experience love and belonging with others, we have to believe that we're worthy of that love and belonging. So where does that come from for you? Where do you derive your sense of worth and belonging? Where do you ground it? What thoughts or stories do you believe about yourself and your worth? These are questions for you to think about today. So where does self-compassion, worth, and belonging, these things, how does it sometimes show up when you're relating to others? Right. Well, it shows up when we refuse to bully ourselves or bully others, right? That part of us that goes, well, I'm 48, I should know better, right? I shouldn't be reacting this way, or I shouldn't get emotional about this or that, or I shouldn't be acting out like this or that, or whatever, right? This kind of like, or the you're so stupid when you think about yourself or something you haven't like achieved all, I'm behind, I'm not good enough, right? All these things, all that negative self-talk is the way we bully ourselves. And so often when we don't feel good about ourselves, then a lot of times we then lash out at others and we make others feel not so good about themselves, right? Worth and belonging also can show up when we demonstrate with others an awareness of imperfections. Like, hey, this thing really bothers me. It's hard for me to handle hearing X. I was talking with some friends earlier today, and one of them shared, I'm really upset about that verdict in Wisconsin. And I don't even know what to do. And I'm really frustrated about it. Right. And they were like, and I just get so angry. And then they described a whole bunch of things that they wish they could do to fix it. And they were like, and I know I can't do it. None of those things I want to do would be helpful. Right. There's this thing in me that wants to fix things and inevitably I'll make it worse. Right. And they just kind of owned it. Right. That was actually, even though it's acknowledging a limitation, that's actually a sign of deep confidence in their sense of worth and belonging because they knew that they could just share it, right? That it didn't actually mean they were a bad person, right? Because they had negative reactions and negative desires in relation to something unfair and unjust and dangerous, right? That made them mad. Another way that we see worth and belonging show up and the way we express it oftentimes with others is the refusal to move toward perfectionistic tendencies, right? Which is another way of saying this is like not needing to be right all the time. Not needing to be right all the time, right? Where we really see this is in religious spaces, right? Where this idea of being right all the time is ensconced in the whole sense of like what the religion is about and what that spirituality is aiming for. But nobody can be right all the time. And there's no religion that is 100% right all the time, that gets it right all the time, right? This is why when we bump up against stuff, you hear people, if you're in church world, you'll hear people say, well, there's no perfect church, right? Which means that something's not getting there's a breakdown here in this. So we don't need to be right all the time because it's not possible to be right all the time. But yet so many kinds of, you know, faith systems make that the priority, is to be right all the time, right? And to always be assessing if someone else is right or wrong and if you agree with them or not. Like what a terrible way to go through life, is just always assessing if you agree and if somebody is right or wrong, like that's that's just not how life works. We're getting some good comments here. Betsy King McDonald says, on self-worth, I remember being in physical therapy and being asked if the procedure was causing me pain. I struggled to answer because I felt like I deserved or should expect to be in some pain because I was in physical therapy. My therapist stopped the session immediately and asked me where I got that idea that there is any level of pain that's appropriate or doesn't deserve to be called pain. This question rocked my sense of self-worth. A simple question changed so much. That's huge. That's huge. Like how often in so much of life do we think that that's what we should have? That like, just because life has a lot of caca baked into it, that somehow that means that we should deserve or just accept certain kinds of pain because we don't believe that we should have anything else, right? Friar Nicholas says, it is showing up for me right now. I usually miss most of this live because of a family Zoom meeting every Sunday morning. Today, I shared something personal, which was followed by a brother going right back to what I was being talked about right before my comment. So I left. Today, I'm practicing self-compassion by joining a different family here, a normal one. Well, the jury's out on normal, Friar Nicholas, but I love that you're here, and I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry that your vulnerability was dismissed and not honored today, especially by those who purport to be family, Um, this weird, strange, it's like we have this need to be weirdly assessing all the time, or we don't know how to relate to each other when people just share vulnerably, right? Another way we see worth and self belonging and belonging show up is in a refusal to move toward hiding, right? Withdrawing tendencies, self protectioning, under functioning, right? Like just shutting down, right? Well, I'm just gonna give up, or I'm not gonna try, or I'm just gonna withdraw, right? Um, Mark Clausen says, this is the new normal for me. What's the new normal? Say a little bit more about that. And Friar Nicholas says, we can become love finders rather than fault finders. Oh my gosh. There it is. Put that one on a mug or a t-shirt, y'all. That's awesome. That is awesome. That is awesome. I love it. Be love finders rather than fault finders. Another way we see it is a refusal to compare self to others in an effort to feel better about yourself or dismiss yourself, right? Stop comparing. Stop comparing, right? Mark says that this family is my new normal. I love that. I love that. We got to try to figure out, we got to get this COVID done so that we can all get together for like a retreat somewhere. We got to converge somewhere and hang out and eat good food and drink wine and tell stories. And yeah, we've got to do that. Mark says, this is where I feel loved, accepted, listened to, and supported. Oh my gosh, I love that. Invite your friends, y'all. Come and join our community. Come hang out on Sunday Live. It is so awesome. I love it. Other ways that we see it is just by taking care of ourselves. When you take care of yourself, that's a sign that there's a baseline understanding of your worth and your belonging and your compassion for yourself, right? And also just trusting your group, right? Like trusting your family, trusting your digital spiritual direction soul care family, right? Like being a space where we can connect, right? Where we hear good words and share good wisdom with each other. You being here today, broadcast or replay, is a sign that you understand your own worth and that you belong and that you deserve to belong. How do we see this show up in others, right? Well, when we see our friends and our families learning to accept their lives, accepting their situations, radically accepting their lives, accepting the diagnosis, accepting the illness, um, coming to terms with reality, because that's the only thing there is this reality, good or bad, grief or joy. Learning to say, this is the assignment right now. I'm not going to fight reality. I'm going to lean into that. That's the essence of this heart of finding gifts of imperfection, right? Not finding silver linings, but really understanding when something even disastrous or difficult is coming toward us, we lean into it as an assignment. It's our course of study. It's our opportunity, right? Melissa says, when you set boundaries and listen to what feels authentic to do, you find your power, voice, and you inspire others to be authentic. Oh my gosh, that's so good. Oh my gosh, that's so good. That's so good. Yes, when you set boundaries and listen to what feels authentic to you, you find your power, you find your voice, and you inspire others to be authentic. Yes. So this is the thing. As we get free, it becomes permission giving to others for freedom. And the people who get angry at it, right, or want to stop it or say, you're not being faithful, you're not this, like literally just heard today, that someone a few years ago heard me say something in a sermon one time where I was simply trying to help people understand the openness of Jesus. Jesus's deep desire for all people to be whole, right? His relentless urge to draw people and point into the deepest reality of God. And because of the way I said it, a person says to my wife, well, Nathan's been walking away from the Bible for years. Like, This is what happens when people are trapped, right? Is when they start to see people walking in freedom, the freedom of love, the liberating, healing love that the Spirit of God brings, right? And is wanting to draw as many people into it by signaling how that works for people. Some of us, instead of have been taught because of our religion, right? Some of us have been taught that when we see that, we're supposed to be suspicious of that kind of healing, liberating freedom. And even though it's the thing that you say you want, your mind, your indoctrination kicks in. And you go, well, that's suspicious and that's bad. Well, how are you going to get free? How are you going to get free if you won't receive the offer of freedom? How are you going to get free if you won't take the freedom that your soul needs? We resist. This is the complexity of the human self. We resist oftentimes the very thing we say we want. We cut ourselves off, or we get angry at people, right? We get angry at people because they're walking in a freedom that deep down we know we really want, but don't feel like we can step in because it's not coming in the right package or whatever. Isn't that bonkers? Isn't that absolutely bonkers? I just think it's like ironic that somebody would have said this, given that I just announced we're getting into an Advent series in a couple weeks where it's going to be like back into the Bible, y'all. You know, I'm going to be talking about the Bible. We're going to be looking at scripture readings. We're going to be reflecting on what it means to be waiting and longing in light of the Holy Scriptures, right? Like, I love the Bible. I love the Scriptures. I think it's great, you know? But it's so funny how, like, we get trapped. We get trapped into mistaking the Bible, mistaking our received interpretations or the approved way of understanding it as the Bible itself. And so when someone comes along with a freedom, a message of freedom that says you're longing for worth and sense of belonging, you belong ultimately and irrevocably and permanently to God. And Jesus never wanted never wanted to get in the way of that for you, but wanted to show you how open it is, how deeply you belong to God. That freaks people out because people want guardrails and conditions and preconditions and all these things because we'd rather still ultimately secure ourselves, right? But you can't get free. You can't get free by holding on and clinging. You can't have connection if you're prioritizing control. You can't have connection if you're prioritizing control. You can't have connection to the deepest reality of yourself if you're prioritizing control of everyone else's view of you, control of your sense of self, control of every possible thought that somebody might think about something about this or that, right? You can't know yourself. You can't get connected to God. You can't get connected with others. You can't have connection if you're all about control. It doesn't work, right? And that's what all that is really about, right? Another way that we see worth and a sense of worth and belonging manifest in others, right, is when we see people come to terms with really understanding who they are, right? Really coming to terms with change. I mean, our whole last series was about thriving in uncertainty. When you learn to thrive in uncertainty, this is a sign that you are getting clear about your worth, your sense of the rock solid reality of your belonging, that nothing can shake you, you know? What another place we see it is when patients, not patients, but like when others, families, like I have patients because I work at the hospital, but like your companions, coworkers, whoever, right? Or families are struggling to connect with each other, right? When you see people yearning to connect with others, when they lean into heavy conversations and honest conversations, these are all signs of people navigating and coming to terms with their worth and their belonging, right? And whenever we see people share honestly about their limitations, share honestly about their hurts, express their needs, right? Learning to live into the good enough, right? It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be good enough, right? With this radical acceptance, when we see that, we see people enacting. You might not realize this when you do this, but this is a sign that there's something in you that gets that you belong and you're okay, that you're a person of worth, right? We're getting some more great comments in here, and people are loving these comments. I want to share them on here if you're watching on YouTube, especially. Mark Clausen says, "You hear, I don't trust organized religion all the time, and I'm learning that there may be truth and wisdom to that statement. Maybe disorganized religion is where it's at." Laugh out loud. No, but really seeing and people hearing and being around people that are being vulnerable and show pieces of themselves that are not appropriate for church. Seeing these imperfections and a want to improve and be better is the most attractive feeling to be around. Like, yeah, me too. I'm so glad that you're going through it too. What do we do about it? Yes. See, like empathy, deeper connection, this vulnerability, being honest about where we are is the key to deeper connection. It's so good. And, I'm exploring the Quakers more and more. I've always loved Quaker thinkers, sometimes called the Religious Society of Friends. It's a very egalitarian, everybody is equal. And if you find the classic Quaker spaces, they have what they call unprogrammed worship, where everyone sits in a room together and is silent. There's no preaching. There's no music or worship like that way. It's silent worship where everyone roots down and listens to the spirit, the light within, you know? And maybe they do what they call vocal ministry, where if as led, you can do some soulful, simple speech where you share something of yourself or some insight that you might have had. Sometimes people read a scripture verse, but it's like 50 minutes of sitting in silence with deep connection, letting people share honestly and openly as they are led. And when they aren't, then people learn to be silent together. It's this kind of disorganized religion, right? And valuing the power of silence, valuing the power, the gift of stillness, right? That's really awesome. That would be so, check out your local friends meeting, unprogrammed friends. I don't know. Friar Nicholas says, my father teaches that sometimes we have to get way, 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 way away in order to look back and see a thing for what it really is. I've been deconstructing since forever. Yes, that's true. Like stepping back to really see what's happening, to really see ourselves. This is that work, the act of stepping back to reflect on oneself says, I'm worthy of my own attention, right? That like, I'm getting a better sense of where I'm rooted and where I'm coming from, right? Judy Gomitsky says, I once knew a man who wanted to date me, but I turned him down, who told me I must have left his church, i.e. found freedom, because the priest must have lectured me about my sexual promiscuity, and I didn't like that. So like, yeah, that's one of the things is like so many people, when people start figuring out stuff, I see so many people trapped in the religious space to say they won't take seriously the pain or hurt or the journey of the person from them. They'll just say the person just wants to sin. The person just wants to become liberal, or the person, you know what I mean? And it's like, no. That's not what's happening. That's not what's happening, right? Diane says he was probably projecting. That's awesome. That is amazing. Melissa says the culture is changing. Change isn't terrible. Unlearning some learned things can be important to your own truth. Say it again louder for the people in the back. Unlearning some learned things can be important to your own truth. People are coming into their own power by standing in their truth. Self-worth grows. Listening to God gets easier. Trusting him gets easier. Melissa says, oh, this is so nice. She says, you're so spot on, Nathan. Such heavy stuff, good stuff. Who is for you will come toward you. Love to you. If you trigger someone, that's their work to do. Yep. God bless them and wish them growth, as you know better than defending your truth. Someone said, stay authentic so your people can find you. I love that, right? Like when somebody gets like that, there's compassion for them, but there's also a compassion for yourself where you say, I'm not going to pick up and try to do your work for you because you're frustrated by my freedom, because I'm coming into an understanding of my own worth and where I belong. Like, be blessed and walk in victory, be blessed and walk in victory, Judy says to Mark, Jesus didn't promote religion. His way was a big wake up, smack in the face to those who idolize religion over radical spiritual substance and authenticity. Parker Palmer for the win. Yes. So like Parker Palmer is a modern Quaker writer. You should pick up his books. You can find them on Amazon. or wherever you buy your books. Parker Palmer would be a great person to read. Also, Rufus Jones. And my big hero, even though he's not in the Quaker tradition, they love him in the Quaker tradition, Howard Thurman. He wrote Jesus and the Disinherited. He's an early 20th century Black theologian who is awesome. He was the mentor to Martin Luther King Jr. Love, 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 love him. Yeah, these are all things that we see. Good thoughts, y'all. Good thoughts. So with this, as we talk about this, right? Worth and belonging, how it shows up, how we see it in others, how we express it. Well, where does this all lead? Well, where does this all lead? These imperfections are the building blocks of authenticity and vulnerability. And these things, finding the gifts of the illumination, the things we learn, through shame, through courage, through compassion, through self-compassion, for discovering and nurturing our sense of worth and well-being, right? These all are really the soul of what it means to live wholehearted, right? To do this open-hearted, wholehearted living, okay? And so that really brings us into what authentic, vulnerable living is. Vulnerability doesn't have to be a bad thing. Vulnerability is the doorway to authenticity, right? And we've talked a lot about like when people, what kinds of things get in the way and the kinds of people who resist and don't want to walk into the door, into the room of authenticity with you. But let's talk a little bit about and wrap up with just a quick look at authenticity and vulnerability, because this is our last session. So I want to really like get some good stuff on the table here. So it's been said that authenticity is a collection of choices that we have to make every day. It's about the choice to show up and be real. It's the choice to be honest. It's the choice to let our true selves be seen. And so choosing authenticity means cultivating the courage to be imperfect. That's why we talked about courage at the very first session. Cultivating the courage to be imperfect, to set your boundaries, like Melissa was talking about, and to allow others to be vulnerable, right? To allow others to be vulnerable. Exercising, it means choosing authenticity means exercising the compassion that comes from knowing that we're all made of strength and struggle. Strength and struggle, right? We're a beautiful mess, right? In the Lutheran tradition, they call it, at the same time, sinner and saint at the same time, right? Justified and broken, right? But it's strength and struggle, right? It also means nurturing the connection and sense of belonging that can only happen when we believe that we are enough. And it also means mindfully practicing authenticity during our most soul-searching struggles, right? So when we mindfully practice authenticity, when we're intentional, right, about leaning in to who we really are and being who we are and accepting others, and that's how we invite grace into our lives. That's how we make room for joy and gratitude in our lives. And looking at these comments and everything that are happening, like in what we've talked about, right? Vulnerability and being authentic requires finding the right people. It means finding the right people. It means finding the right spaces. And it means also being a person where you're going to hold space where we can be safe to express and be our truest selves, right? So vulnerability opens the door to authenticity, but it means finding the right people and the right spaces. And then holding space, not just for others, but also for ourselves to be who we are. In her book, Brene Brown says, owning our story can be hard, but not nearly as difficult spending our lives running from it. Embracing our vulnerabilities is risky, but not nearly as dangerous as giving up on love and giving up on belonging and joy. These are the experiences that make us most vulnerable and thus open us to deeper authenticity, right? So only when we're brave enough to explore the darkness will we discover the infinite power of our light. It's my hope our exploration of these gifts of imperfection over these past few weeks has been illuminating to you. And to bless you, I want to say, may you see yourself for yourself, who you really are, and see others as they really are. May you be a person of acceptance and safety and embrace, first for yourself and then for everyone you meet. May you be a healing, tender presence, first to yourself and then to everyone you meet. And may each day you embrace and receive the gift of being yourself. Amen. Amen. Oh, spiritual direction, soul care. I am so excited about the coming weeks here as we get into Advent. We'll be looking at Still Waiting. Still Waiting. It'll be an Advent journey to Christmas. That starts December 5th. I cannot wait for this journey. We'll be diving into the assigned scriptures for this year's Advent, and we are going to really discover the new, beautiful tools and reflection and wisdom that can sustain us as we go toward a hopeful and healing end to this year, a hopeful and healing end to 2021. I know we're still doing pandemic. Who would have thought? But we're walking through it and we're making our way, and we are going to discover all the gifts that the Spirit has for each of us that are already waiting within each of us that are there. And Scripture is going to be a great reflective tool to help us draw out those gifts and to become aware of God's presence and just get deeper as we grow in our God devotion. We get healed, as we get free, and as we grow and share our wisdom together each Sunday. So we won't see you next Sunday. Enjoy your holiday weekend, and then we'll kick off with December 1st, Wednesday, with our kickoff Advent midweek meditation that will go weekly through Advent. And then Sunday Live will start up again December 5th as we start Still Waiting, an Advent journey to Christmas. I cannot wait to get to Still Waiting. I can't wait. I can't wait to wait. It's going to be awesome. Love you guys so much. Have a great week. Let me know how you're doing. And we'll see you after Turkey Day, December 1st for midweek meditation, and then December 5th. Have a great, awesome rest of your week.